Ma, Czar, Rupp. Delicious.
Bistek Tagalog is a very traditional Filipino dish. It normally uses the regular cuts of the beef, but in a restaurant, we used ribeye. And you can never go wrong with ribeye. Dip that tender piece in the sauce, and that certainly ups the flavor to another level. Paired with a half-cooked, still crunchy piece of sweet red onion, and that bite certainly makes it almost heavenly. Now let me show you how we cook this bad boy. So for our sides, we're gonna have French beans and mashed potatoes. Plus for color, we will add fresh cherry tomatoes on the side. For the mashed potatoes, we will need milk and butter. And of course, our tender pieces of ribeye. We'll season the ribeye with salt and pepper, garlic powder, lemons, and this liquid seasoning. This is like soy sauce, but more tasty. You can find this in most Asian or Filipino grocery stores. You could also use this one to substitute, and it's similar to the other one. To make our sauce, we will need soy sauce and red onions. You can use any type of onion you like, but I prefer the red onions for this dish because it is sweet and has a pretty red color. First thing to do is we're gonna season the ribeye with the dry ingredients. We'll start off with the salt and some pepper, and then sprinkle a generous amount of garlic powder. Then just flip over the meats and season the same with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Now, you certainly can use any steak cut that you like, but for this dish, a boneless ribeye works best because we're going to slice it up into thick strips later, so we can serve it family style. But you can certainly serve a whole big piece of steak if you like. Now we're gonna slice a piece of lemon and drizzle it all over the meat. So this will kind of like give it an acidic taste. So it's gonna be awesome. Then do the same on the other side. Next is the liquid seasoning. Just drizzle it all over the ribeye. You can be generous about it. Don't worry. Now, if you don't have the liquid seasoning, just use soy sauce instead. It will work fine. Now we'll just set this aside and let it marinate for a couple of minutes. Now let's prepare the mashed potatoes. Just peel the skin off. And cut into quarters so they easily cook. Place everything into a pot. Then pour in the milk. Pour as much milk until it reaches almost the top of the pile. If you like it creamier, just add more milk as desired. Then add half a stick of butter. Well, maybe make the one whole stick of butter. Then season with salt and pepper. And that's about it. Just close the cover and bring to a boil using low to medium heat. In a cast iron pan, we're gonna cook our steaks. Just drizzle a little oil, and when it's very hot, throw in the steaks to let it sear. If you don't have a cast iron pan, an ordinary frying pan will do. I'm trying to cook this medium to medium rare, and there's a reason for that. Because we're gonna cut these up into thick strips later and sear them again. But you certainly can cook them up however you like your steaks. When we're done, we just need them to rest for at least 5 minutes. Now, don't forget about the mashed potato. Just keep stirring the potatoes from time to time. Now, you certainly can serve a whole piece of steak like this, but what I'd like to do is cut them up into thick strips, sear them again, and serve it family style so everyone can share. Now, we're just searing the red meat sides of the steak just for a little bit, real quick sear, just to give it that char all over. Just make sure not to overcook it so that the meat does not toughen up and it remains tender. Now look at that, yummy! Now we'll just set this aside and it's ready for plating later. Next we'll prepare the sauce, and we'll start off with cutting a lemon. Then peel off a red onion. And cut it into thick rings like so. So we reheat back our cast iron pan and put in about 3/4 cup of soy sauce. We'll let it simmer and add about 3/4 cup of water too. Then squeeze in the lemon. If you have beef broth, you can certainly substitute the water for the beef broth. Then season with pepper and the liquid seasoning. Remember, don't add salt anymore because the soy sauce is already salty. Remember, this pan is where we cooked our steaks, and all those char and beefy juices have deglazed into our sauce mixture. That's what makes this sauce so flavorful. If it tastes a little salty, just add more water or beef broth to balance it out. Next, pour back in all those juices from our steaks. This will certainly amp up the flavor a notch higher. We don't mix the steak into the sauce to keep the char on the steak. Now finally, put in the red onions. Then quickly turn off the heat. The residual heat will just half cook the onions so they still remain crunchy and juicy. As the onion simmers, it releases some of its sweetness to the sauce. Now we'll just set this aside, ready for plating. Back to the mashed potatoes. As soon as they're soft enough, you can start mashing them up. Again, if you want to make it creamier, just add some more milk to the mixture. If you want a finer mashed potato, you can certainly run this through a blender. Let's not forget about our French beans. So in a pan, just add water and season it with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. As soon as it boils, add the French beans. Give it about 7 to 10 minutes before it cooks. Now that's everything, and we're now ready to plate. Now you can plate it any way you want, but this is how we plated it in our restaurant before. So we have mashed potatoes on the side and a couple of French beans. Pile up a few strips of the delicious ribeye. Now if you're Filipino and you need your rice fix, you certainly can squeeze in rice into that plate. That sweet red onion on top. Then drizzle it with our sauce as much as you like. Some fresh cherry tomatoes for color. Clean the plate And that, my friends, is our Ribeye Bistek Tagalog. If you like this recipe, please share this with your friends and click on subscribe to be updated on the next releases for my Filipino restaurants' secret recipes. Thank you for watching. Till next time.